So, Spider-Man 2. Yeah, what can I say? It's the best superhero movie of 2004. That's something. Yeah, sorry, Hellboy fans. If it makes you feel any better, I liked the movie a lot more than I liked the comic it was based on. Yeah, that probably doesn't make you feel any better at all, does it? Thankfully, Raimi's first Spider-Man was an unmitigated success, ushering in the modern age of superhero movies. And now that we've got those pesky 45 minutes of origin out of the way, we can finally focus on making an honest-to-Stan Lee Spider-Man movie. Right?
Better do your research, Parker. Get it done, or I'm failing you.
Immediately, you notice Spider-Man 2 is a creator-admitted homage, which is French for remake, of Superman 2. And why wouldn't it be? At least they were honest about it, and in a pre-Dark Knight world, Superman 2 was the only honest-to-God good superhero sequel on the market. I mean, sure, the Burton-Schumacher Bat films made money, but we thought at the time that no one would dare copy-paste from Batman Returns. We were all a little bit more naive in a pre-Catwoman world. So again, it's not like Spider-Man 2 is a bad movie. It's just given the amount of money, talent, and money involved, the end result is pretty damn mediocre. Ugh. I felt a great disturbance in the force, as if millions of fanboys cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced by the fact that I don't give a shit. Still, hold your hate mail. Let me start with some positives. Like Rosemary Harris, who continues to be the spitting image of Aunt May. And this time she's actually given a chance to act.
I can't take that from
Yes, you can. You can take this money from me. For God's sake, it's not much. Now take it. And don't you dare leave it here.
What college-age loser hasn't had this conversation with their maternal figure? Other continuous joys include J.K. Simmons.
Boss, your wife's in the line. She said she lost a checkbook.
Thanks for the good news.
Particularly if you shelled out the money for the super special, awesome extended edition of this movie, with the extra 8 minutes or so edited back in where they should have been in the first fucking place. Some of what returns is pointless fluff, like the less funny version of that elevator scene.
I'm with Weisenhower, Anderson, Nichols & Knudsen, PR firm in the building. And I just want to say that I think the image you have is fantastic. It's really put together. The costume, this thing, I mean, it's really put together. It's great. Looks uncomfortable.
It gets kind of itchy. It rides up in the crotch a little bit, too.
But there's this one bit where JJ puts on his captured Spidey jammies and hops around the desk like the closet fanboy we've known he's been for 50 years. And it's glorious! Kudos to you, Spider-Man 2. Turning to the new players, Alfred Molina certainly looks the part of Doc Ock, and his pre-transformation scenes with Peter are a real joy.
Intelligence is not a privilege, it's a gift. And you use it for the good of mankind.
Because they're the only social interaction Peter's allowed that don't involve him staring face up into the torrential shitstorm that is his life. Because Peter Parker is first and foremost a loser. Right?
He's a hero.
Yeah, Carly, but nobody wants heroes anymore. Heroes are people you look up to. Exemplars whom you strive to follow. Or don't, at your own peril. Nobody wants that. Heroes are, in the parlance of modern entertainment, unrelatable. They're too perfect, too wholesome, too damn good. And since most people get through life by being petty, backbiting, and evil, the sight of a genuinely good person in a movie shatters their suspension of disbelief, faster than a giant robot piloted by a 14-year-old boy. Your average middle management clock puncher has a hard enough time accepting that any so-called normal people would use their superpowers for selfless ends in the first place. Because they know what they'd do if they ever got superpowers, and I'll bet you robbing a bank would be pretty high on most people's lists. Along with rampaging through the streets, of course. I think that's the real reason why everybody found Doc Ock so sympathetic. It had nothing to do with his dead wife, or his quest to give the world free energy. Fuck all that hippy-dippy Al Gore bullshit. Am I right, America? Doc Ock's a madman, tempted to the dark side by the 4 talking robot arms only he can hear. You remember back when everyone, myself included, gave Red Dragon so much shit because you couldn't hear the monster talk in Ralph Fiennes' head?
I couldn't have miscalculated.
Well, I got the same problem with this Doc Ock. And with his fucking tentacles. God, What idiot designs mechanical manipulator arms with artificial intelligence in the first place? It'd be like putting a Pentium chip into a socket wrench. Presumably, these arms would need no more or less programming than was necessary to allow them to take orders from the user's brain, which is exactly how they work in the comics. The whole artificial intelligence angle just seems like an easy moral out to me. It allows us to excuse Doc Ock's many heinous crimes, which include but are not limited to accessory to murder. Oh sure, the arms did it. Try telling that to a New York DA. And who controls the arms, Dr. Octavius? Destruction of property, multiple counts, squatting, armed robbery. Ha! You see what I did there. Resisting arrest, assault and battery, assaulting police officers, fleeing the scene of a crime, extortion, kidnapping. And considering this was a 2004 film, and he did attack a public train in order to lure Spider-Man out into the I Am Spartacus sequence, we might as well call Doc Ock guilty of terrorism. God knows John Ashcroft would have creamed his jeans over a case this open and shut. Oh, don't look at me that way. The Marvel Universe prides itself on cameos from real-world political figures and on being the realistic alternative to their competitors at DC. Guess who broke up their version of Watergate? Captain America! America! Fuck yeah! Bet your fucking ass he did. But since the post-Watergate world has sucked so hard for so long, most Americans aren't capable of vicariously enjoying our heroes the way we enjoy our villains. Unless, of course, our heroes have capital I issues, beyond the obligatory tragic past. It's not enough that they have dead parents. These days they all have to be lonely, sullen, internally conflicted loser assholes, and spend the first 2 acts of every movie bitching about this to the nearest available sounding board. Unfortunately, somewhere along the line, the makers of this film decided the audience would only relate to Spider-Man if he spent the whole film as miserable as they are. So we turn now to senior human misery correspondent, Asif Manvi. John, I'm here posing as the owner of Joe's Pizza, publicly humiliating human doorstop Peter Parker. For reasons neither I nor any of the mad scientists I know can explain, I felt compelled to make his life a living hell from the moment I first saw him. In fact, John, the entire population of New York City seems engaged in a not-so-secret campaign to shit in his cereal, possibly in reaction to his well-documented attempts to get some from that girl, the girl next door, Mary Jane Watson. In spite of that, the intro's really a step up from the last film. The CGI's gotten better, for one thing. Seriously, watch these two back-to-back, and the difference practically screams at you. But this time we actually get to see Peter lose his job instead of just hear him mention it. The manner in which he meets Dr. Octavius is pretty convenient, but no more or less so than anything else in the Marvel Universe, where everyone pretty much knows everybody else anyway. And if they don't, all you have to do is wait 6 months for the retroactive continuity to kick in. It'll be there. Trust me. Speaking of which, did Harry and Pete have a falling out between movies we didn't see, or did Peter just decide to move out on his own after Norman Osborn's funeral? Because that was one swank-ass apartment those two had together. Be ashamed to lose it, but I can imagine Harry kicking Peter out over the latter's friendship with Spider-Man. My mental image looks a lot like the scene that pops up about halfway in after Harry gets plotzed.
Isn't that right? Huh? Isn't that right? Huh, brother?
Shouldn't they have had this fight, like, months ago? Oh, wait. The script needs Harry to introduce Peter to Octavius, so all 3 of them can be in the same room when Otto gets his extra arms. Which is a different kind of narrative convenience, but hell, maybe this will prompt Harry to see Spider-Man in a new light and maybe finally grow as a person.
This doesn't change anything.
Okay, scratch that. Really, Harry? Really? I mean, the guy just saved your life and probably stopped that miniature sun from vaporizing the whole damn building. Or the whole damn city. Or the whole damn continental shelf. I mean, come on, Harry, man the fuck up. I mean, sure, he's dead, but he left you with bales of cash and a job at the firm that turned your last name into a brand. So, what more do you want? Revenge?
I always heard living well's the best revenge.
Shut up, Fury. Nobody asked you. Besides, after he's served his purpose, the movie completely forgets Harry exists. Until it needs something else from him to get the third act going. Like a reason for Doc Ock to go after Spider-Man. What the hell does Harry do all day until then? Booze it up in the office.
Of course!
Has he become the Chase Meridian of this universe? Better than becoming the Darth Vader. But for a guy who hates the character Venom so much, Sam Raimi sure worked hard to redistribute all of his character traits among the rest of the Spider cast. We got Eddie Brock's fanboyish obsessiveness, and Harry here.
Not tonight, Harry. Every night. Until I find him, it's 24/7.
We've got a corrupting symbiotic non-human intelligence, prodding Doc Ock to do evil things with appeals to his vanity and egocentrism.
Something in my head. Something talking.
And I've always wondered if this was the real reason Raimi didn't want to put Venom in the third film. Ah, well. Out of all these characters, only Mary Jane and Aunt May seem to have real lives outside of the camera's focus. Aunt May's trying to refinance the house, and Mary Jane's gotten herself a role in The Importance of Being Earnest. And a fiancé, John Jameson, the criminally underutilized astronaut son of Peter's boss. But I don't care about him, because I'm too busy being happy for our leading lady. A character's experiencing success because they've worked long and hard to overcome their tragic pasts? In a Spider-Man film?
Inconceivable!
I know. As is MJ's relationship with John Jameson. At one point he even says...
It's just a uniform.
And MJ pretty much proves this by trying out the famous spider kiss on him, and looking all sad when it doesn't work. Now, using John here as a placeholder boyfriend is kind of a dick move, but at least MJ's finally doing something. She wants herself a Spider-Man, but she can't have him because he doesn't even respect her enough to give her the choice. Seriously, everyone rags on MJ for being a bitch in this movie, but I think she's inhumanly calm considering the circumstances.
Picking up where we left off.
Where was that? We never got on. You can't get off if you don't get on, Peter.
I don't think it's that simple.
Of course you don't, because you complicate things.
Her so-called best friend started suddenly disappearing on her without even the common courtesy of becoming a real good liar. And if I found out, say through the medium of tonsil hockey, that my best friend had had a perfectly good excuse for ditching me all those times, like, say, being a superhero, I'd be even angrier at them for not sharing this obviously important information with me ASAP. And if they topped off that shit cake with some lame excuse about, oh, I can never have friends because I'll always have enemies, I'd smack them across the face for insulting me. Matter of fact, that kind of behavior insults the entire idea of a relationship, as MJ tells Peter at the very end of this movie.
I know you think we can't be together. But can't you respect me enough to let me make my own decision?
After she's left John Jameson at the altar, which is an even bigger dick move than using him as a placeholder boyfriend in the first place. So, okay, who am I supposed to be rooting for again? The guy who can't make up his mind about being a superhero, or the girl who can't make up her mind about whether or not she can put up with this guy's bullshit? Peter took the choice out of MJ's hands because he thought he was being all noble and stuff, even though he's just being a dick. MJ won my heart in the last 5 minutes of this movie by finally up and telling him this, showing that she, at least, has grown a pair of ovaries over the course of these films. The status of Peter Parker's balls will be determined in our review of Spider-Man 3. Spoiler alert, Peter needs his balls to drop from space. Meanwhile, this movie spins my question from the last film right around, so now I'll ask MJ, what the fuck do you see in this guy? He can't even lie to you well, girl. How interesting is this relationship really going to be? The movie even backtracks a bit by showing him doing science stuff in, like, one scene, but otherwise he's the same distant, unavailable douche he's been for, 3 hours now. And just like last time, Peter does nothing to stop the supervillain rampaging through New York until that supervillain threatens his that girl. You'd think those tentacles would leave an easy-to-follow trail of destruction right back to Doc Ock's German expressionist lab. You don't exactly need a CSI forensic team to track something that leaves big claw-shaped holes in buildings. Speaking of which, if his telepathic arms are so damn smart, how come none of them suggested stealing equipment instead of money? And anyway, who'd take money from a human octopus? Nothing screams mad scientist like a guy buying equipment off the back of a truck with handfuls of fresh Benjamins. Who never takes off his sunglasses. Not even at night. Especially not at night. Whatever. Spider-Man waits around for problems to come to him. Conveniently enough, they always do. It's like God's on his side. And God has a really fucked up sense of humor. Which, in this case, we know is demonstrably true.
I'll stand in the...
So yeah, like I said, best superhero movie of 2004, hands down, no contest, no questions asked. It's got the best pacing, best score, and best special effects of Raimi's entire Spider-Man trilogy. Well, our director's increased confidence with this kind of budget is plain for everyone to see. There are some real heartfelt moments between the characters, and all the actors portraying them do the best they can to sling the hash they're given. If their script hadn't been stapled together from at least 3 others, this would have been perfect. And at the end of the day, at least it's not Spider-Man 3.
I can't recall who said it. I know I never read it. I only know they tell me that love is grand. And the thing that's known as romance is wonderful. Wonderful. In every way. So they say.
Any more bright ideas? I got a few. Yeah.